then I will try to control it from my end.
You know, Angie gets 2 capitals in her name.
Is it good, Angie?
Do you want me to put it on, Tim? I have one that matches yours, actually. In my pocket.
Why are you wearing it?
Setting a good example.
Okay. Who's Mike?
Mike, don't know.
It's finance for accounting.
Oh, Middleton?
Yeah.
What's he doing?
I don't know. Poaching?
I didn't recognize him.
Hmm?
I didn't recognize him.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Real.
The gavel. Julie has your gavel.
She's got my gavel?
I think she's in the chamber.
Hey, Rich,
Huh.
take care of business too.
How's that?
Or go sit down, one or the other.
What the hell are you talking about?
You're unzipped.
Are you kidding me?
No,
We're not muted anymore, folks.
I don't know, Rich. That's looking pretty bad on,
Okay, so you just heard your new nickname.
that's recorded.
Watch, I got more on you than you got on me.
Okay.
Where's Darcy?
She's sick. She won't be there. Okay, we got
Does she have the
Dave.
virus?
Say what?
Does she have the virus?
I don't know. She called my wife and told her, thinking I was home and I was here.
Everybody's got water. So I seem to have a lot.
Thank you.
We're on now. Don't be throwing bottles at people. You need another one?
I'm really hanging for a coffee, but
Why don't you move your hat on your
I
side?
guess here.
Was I supposed to go get my gavel or something?
No clue, no clue.
Right? Was I supposed to go get my gavel?
I'm supposed to know.
No, mine. I thought you said Julie has my gavel.
I does.
She does. Anybody go get it?
No, we're good.
We're 4 minutes away.
Stage fright starting to set in.
Hey, Dave.
We've all been on Zoom or whatever it is in the past. First time we've come back, at least trying to do a meeting, some semblance of, at least we're here together
Okay.
for the most part.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Normally our meeting would be in the council
Yeah.
chambers.
So this is the first time you're
They hold
from your homes.
And I kind of pushed for it to have us start getting back together, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm at fault here.
No, I hated it because I wouldn't do Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it bothers me to watch people that their vocal isn't.
Oh, yeah. Out of sync, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and we were watching, while we were on Zoom, watching city manager, clerk, and attorney who were not 6 feet apart.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we could do that.
Yeah, I can. That'll work. Okay. Perfect. Are you muted?
Full screen.
Julie. I hope to talk to you sometime tomorrow.
So we need this.
Mhm.
You ready? Oh, okay. It's 5:30, right? Good evening. I am now going to call the regular city council meeting of June 8, 2020 to order. And our first order of business is the oath of office. I'd like to introduce our city clerk, Isaiah Grossman, and our new city council member, Scott Randall, to take place.
You ready?
You want it up here? Or?
Yeah, you could come right here. I can scoot, so we're doing our social distancing part. Okay. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Scott Randall,
I, Scott Randall,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America,
and the state of Oregon,
the state of Oregon,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of the Dalles,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of the Dalles,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully and honestly,
faithfully and honestly,
perform the duties of counselor position number 3
perform the duties of counselor position number 3
of the city of the Dalles
of the city of the Dalles
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
And can I have your signature?
To take this occasion to properly introduce Scott. As everyone knows, he's taking the place of Mr. Russ Brown, who served as city council faithfully. We did have 7 applications for the position, and we certainly appreciate the interest that was shown by city citizens to take Russ's place. It was a very difficult choice, but as you know, we did settle on the candidacy of Scott Randall. Scott comes to us, he has lived here in the Dalles since 1996, at least the second time through. He grew up here, graduated from the Dalles High School. He moved away and then got smart and returned in 1996. where he resides on East 19th Street with his wife and 3 children, Carla, and his 2 sons, Dustin and Nolan, and his daughter Sierra. And he does have a Bachelor of Arts degree from Morgan State University, and he's now working for the Army Corps of Engineers, where he's been for the last 16 years. Scott, we welcome you, and we're sure that you'll be a fine addition to the City Council.
Thank you.
With that, can I ask the city clerk to call the roll, please?
Linda Miller,
Here.
Tim McLaughlin,
Here.
Rod Runyon,
Here.
Scott Randall,
Here.
Darcy Long Curtis is absent, and Mayor Mays.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is proclamations and presentations. And we do have item 4A is canvass the vote proclamation. And I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas at a primary election held in the state of Oregon on May 19, 2020, in the city of The Dalles, Oregon, there was submitted to the voters question 33-101, the Dalles Charter 2020. And whereas the City Council of the City of The Dalles has canvassed the results of said election and is found as follows. On question 33-101, there were a total number of votes cast and have 4,087. 2,665 voted yes, 1,422 voted no. So it did pass. I therefore, Richard Mays, Mayor of the City of The Dalles, do hereby proclaim at the primary election held on May 19, 2020, the following. Question 33-101, the Dalles Charter 2020 passed and is now the charter for the City of The Dalles. Signed and dated at The Dalles, Oregon, this 8th day of June, 2020. I would also like to acknowledge the work of our city clerk, Isaiah Grossman, and city councilors Rod Runyon and Linda Miller, who were instrumental in developing the language that would go on the ballot. And as mayor, I appreciate and would like to recognize those 3 people. Okay,
Excuse me, Mayor Mays.
yes,
Did I miss the approval of the agenda?
Yes.
yes. I think it's more accurate to say that I missed.
Oh, I just thought I missed it getting back here.
Okay, so can I ask for a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
It's moved by Councilor Miller, seconded by Councilor Runyon to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Back to item 4B, Q Life fiscal year 21 budget presentation. I see, I thought I saw, there he is, Mike.
Yep, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I just love these virtual meetings. They're so much harder. Right now, we've got the Q Life budget. We got it approved in April by the budget committee for the Q Life. Went through pretty smooth and there was no changes. And then of course, with everything going on, I didn't get this to you guys in May to review. So I'm sorry, we're kind of sliding it in here in June. This will be what is going to the Q Life board for adoption on the 25th of this month. The budget's $3.3 million between all the funds that are out there. This is going to be the second full year of the new Maupin fund going because it's out there holding its own and going through there. When we look at everything, the general fund in the operations fund, the main one, we're going to be pulling the fund balance down with the budget we've built out about $45,000. This is intended to be done. We meant to do that because the fund balance had grown more than we felt needed to be there. Even with this, we're transferring 56% of all of the utility service charges just go out of there and into the capital fund that it's developing for long-term projects. Our materials and services for the operations fund there has just really remained flat. It increased about $2,000, which is only 0.6%. The capital fund is just growing because we have projects due that the board's looking at doing. They're moving forward on some, but the balance is still growing in there on the capital side in order to do some of these long-term projects. The MOPIN fund, as I said, is just finishing its first full year of operations. It's starting to develop some trends. We're going to see how that goes. We found some additional funds that came in on a grant that ended up flowing through into Q Life. We're able to use that to start repaying the capital fund for the money that had been fronted to the MOPIN fund to get them started. And we'll be able to keep that up, and all the funds are sitting in a pretty good shape. As I said, 2 of your counselors are on the board. We've got Councilor Long Curtis and Councilor Runyon, and they were both a part of the budget committee that reviewed the budget. And as I said, it came through the budget committee and there was no changes made. We do have Matthew Klebs here, who's also working with Q Life. If you had any specific questions between the 2 of us, we should be able to address those for you. We're just bringing it to you so we can get it approved, so we can bring it forward and get it adopted at the Q Life board.
Mike, for the record, could you please introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Mike Middleton. I am the finance director for Wasco County. I am also the budget officer for Q Life, which is why I'm kind of in charge of that budget and bringing that for you. And I am a resident here in Wasco County and the Dalles itself.
And your sidekick, Matthew, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mays. My name is Matthew Klebs. I'm the Administrative Services Director for Wasco County and working as administrator for Q Life.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mike or Matthew? Any comments? Hearing none, thank you very much for your report, guys, and keep up the good work. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5, it's the city manager's report. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, it's really echoing in this room. I sent you out an email last week, so I think you are updated on quite a bit of this. Let's see. I did receive from the planning department their outdoor seating plan that they've been working on with the Chamber of Commerce and Main Street. And I had quite a few questions, so I wasn't ready to bring it to the city council tonight for approval. Their recommendation does include the city and Main Street going into a contract and providing some funds from the Economic Recovery Fund, if that passes in the budget tonight, for construction and placement of some additional parklets and some raised sidewalks. So if someone's using the sidewalk for seating or retail space, there would be access for people to walk in what would normally be a parking space. So as soon as I get all my questions answered to my satisfaction, I will let the city council know, and then I think that is an appropriate use of the funds from the economic recovery line item if that does get approved tonight. So that's almost completed. I also attended the Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting on Friday afternoon, and that committee is coming forward with a recommendation to Wasco County Commission and City Council for changing our recycling plan so that we get it into compliance. And that would include a 2.16% surcharge, which could go away at some time when, the legislature gets finished with all of the changes that we hope that they're going to make to recycling in the next session. So if that will come to council at the next meeting for your approval, but we were told that equates to about 39 cents a month for a residential 32 gallon can, or 58 cents a month for the big roll cart. So it is not too big. And that one piece of changing what goes into the recycling and the surcharge brings us back into compliance with DEQ. So that's the recommendation of that committee, and I'll be bringing that forward to you at the next meeting for approval. I think everything else on my list is pretty much complete. I did have a city councilor ask if our Public Works Director could have a couple of minutes to give you an update on the recent storm that we had and how our systems managed that. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Julie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, good evening. So as the council is, I'm sure, aware, we've had a couple of significant storm events, actually several over the last several years. And they have been involved rain intensities that were high enough, it just rained hard enough to really challenge some of our systems. And all of these have been had an intensity. It rained harder than what our systems are designed to take. I'll give you some examples. The regulations for a wastewater treatment plant require that we have the capability of handling a 5-year storm event. And for us, that 5-year event would translate into a flow of about just over 7.5 million gallons a day. The storm event that we had a couple weekends ago and the one that we had last year, both resulted in flows to the plant of about 14 million gallons a day. So well above what regulations requires to have. With the upgrades that we just constructed that are planned to take us through the year 2036, we have the ability to pump about 13.2 million gallons into the plant. We just haven't matched that with the ability to pump out. Similarly, with our stormwater collection systems, our design criteria is to try to be able to handle a 25-year storm event. And again, the intensity of these thunderstorms that we're seeing more frequently now are more intense. It's raining harder for short periods of time than is associated with those 25-year events. With that said, that doesn't mean there's not sometimes some things we can do. So we're looking at a couple of projects, especially with some information about what happened with this most recent event. We've got a project underway that'll begin some construction tomorrow, in fact, to try to add some stormwater collection up on 10th Street, East 10th Street, where it was widened several years ago. We're going to add some catch basins and try to do a better job of collecting the water before it builds up so much to the point where it's running down driveways and into people's basements. We had a report of another situation of a building flooding downtown. That was the Rose Building. My understanding is it also flooded last year. Our staff has met with them and we're pretty certain that the challenges associated with that facility are actually on their own private system, because their roof drains are tied into their sanitary sewer, and it's just more water coming off the roof than their pipe from their building to our sanitary sewer main can handle. So we're working with them to try to identify some options. And we had a similar situation in another building a few years ago that we were able to resolve with improvements on the private side. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. One of the things that we do expect with climate change is an increase in severe weather intensity. That's one of the ways I heard it described once was an increase in weather weirdness. Droughts may become drier. Storm events may become stormier. Rare rain events may happen more frequently. Those types of things. And so, we want to be able to, we're trying to look ahead and at least pick the low-hanging fruit to improve the function of our stormwater collection system to do a better job at handling these heavy thunderstorm and heavy rain events. Any questions?
Councilor Runyon has a question.
By the way, thank you. Both of those, the homeowners and the business owner, very pleased with the contact they've had with the city, and I appreciate that immensely. Going back to the storm from last year, where we had that heavy rainstorm, and 4th Street grade had problems there, where it came down 4th Street grade and the street that goes by down in Carpet and on down, and the next one by the Laughlin. Have we done some correction on that on 4th Street? I had somebody ask me today if we made any adjustments to the drainage on the 4th Street grade.
not since that storm event. We had just finished a project that did make some improvements, but we still have some bottlenecks. And then one of the challenges with that particular location, if I recall correctly, is, it's a grade, it's a hill. And that water comes down that pipe so fast and down the street so fast that we get some surcharging when it gets to the pipe at the bottom of the hill, and it levels out, and we get some backing up, and we start blowing the manhole covers off when we have these, really heavy storm events. So that's one that we're looking at. We haven't made changes since the storm event last year, though.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dave or Julie? Thank you. Item 6 is our city attorney's report. I know she's here somewhere. Diana?
You can hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
I apologize. I'm having some technical difficulties. Unfortunately, my report is short. We've started to return to the office. We're monitoring all the issues associated with reopening the municipalities. I did attend today a special session of the Hood River County Board of Commissioners. They voted to apply to enter phase 2. At the same time, they saw quite a spike in cases over the weekend. They're up to 67.
We're not getting it already.
So watching what happens.
She's talking about the reopening.
Will be something to monitor. I think that's all I have for tonight, and I hope you all could hear me.
We could not really hear you very well. I know you were talking about the reopening issues, but we really couldn't hear too well.
Maybe Julie could.
Julie, you're there. Maybe you could summarize. Isn't Diana there?
My
with you?
phone, no,
I thought I saw her.
no, it's in the lower right corner.
Yeah, she does.
You were not able to hear Diana.
Not clearly.
Okay, she was speaking about the Hood River County Board of Commissioners meeting today where they were discussing whether or not to apply for phase 2. And you can correct me if I mess this up. So they did vote to apply for phase 2, but their cases have spiked up to 67. And so there's some question as to whether or not they will be approved. And that was her only item this evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, city council reports. We'll start with Council Runyon.
Let's see here, since we last met down at the local public safety coordinating council on the 2nd of June, Q-Life budget and so forth on back on May 28th, May 27th, the evaluation meeting we had here for our municipal judge and for our city manager. And June 3rd, the Columbia Gorge Veterans Museum, which we're in the process of trying to relocate that. And we are getting a lot of great response from the community and more to come. And then today, the 8th Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee that meets at the Civic. Met with them today, and here I am tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Miller.
Okay, last month I attended the Urban Renewal Agency budget meeting and the Urban Renewal Agency meeting and the personnel evaluations for our city manager and the judge. There were actually 2 meetings regarding that. And I was part of the candidate interviews, and we voted and elected Scott Randall as our new city councilor. And I attended a Dallas Sister City Association meeting. And it wasn't so much that we had anything to discuss, but we wanted to make sure that everybody knew that The Dalles is not sending a delegation, student delegation to Miyoshi. And Miyoshi is not sending delegates here this year. So we decided that all the delegates that were going to go from here to Japan this year will roll over because they're, all of them will still be in high school next year. Will be going, if they want to go, they will be going next year. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilor McLaughlin?
Well, I also participate in the evaluation process for the mayor and municipal judge. Attended a Zoom Airport Commission meeting, and I see Ms. Rasmussen is online, and maybe she could give a little update if there's a chance. I did interview for the council position, and welcome to the city council. And last week spent 12 hours and 2 days on Zoom meetings, so I'm zoomed out.
Okay. While we're on it, Aaron, is there anything you'd like to add as far as the airport, since Councilor McLaughlin mentioned you?
Sure. We're having a very busy summer at the airport. We're working on getting some additional fuel tanks placed, which will be great since we're starting fire season. We're continuing with our apron rehabilitation project. And then we've also been sort of jump started with Columbia Gorge Community College, the city and Klickitat County towards working for a EDA grant to construct a training hangar for the college and to extend some utilities and open up more aviation lots in the airport's business park.
Thank you. Councilor Randall, do you have anything you want to bring up at this point?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Under my report, in addition to the items that have already been mentioned, I did want to read some correspondence I received from the Salvation Army, Captain Morris, that from mid-March through the month of May, they have distributed 1,008 food boxes. They also have a drive-up and walk-up pantry open, and services are available to local ministries and law enforcement agencies for people that cannot make it to the pantry. And they're also have on hand diapers, baby wipes, blankets and care kits, and laundry products as requested during their pantry hours. So we appreciate the work that the Salvation Army is doing. I also attended a KACI radio interview on the 26th, KODL coffee break on the 27th. On June 3rd, I attended a meeting with Julie regarding the Business Oregon grant program for small businesses. And I've also been trying to keep busy meeting with citizens throughout the community, recruiting for the various boards and committees that the city has. And if anybody's listening, please spread the word. We're always looking for good people to serve on city boards and commissions. And finally, I wanted to mention that I attended the protest march on Saturday. And while I appreciate the fact that the organizers kept their word that it was a peaceful protest march, I want to spend just a minute to compliment our police department on the way they handled the entire day, not only in keeping peace and the professionalism they showed, but especially the way they managed the traffic and the hundreds of people that were marching through the streets. So my hat's off and my compliments to the Dalles Police Department. Okay.
Second that.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 8. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the important items and issues. Any councilor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of action items section. Tonight, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. One is the approval of the May 11th city council minutes. Second is a resolution regarding my appointment of Philip Mosher to the Plan Commission. Mr. Mosher is present here tonight. And a resolution supporting assisted housing programs. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Council Runyon, seconded by Council Miller to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Council Runyon.
At the last meeting, this is not an addition to the agenda, but I did the report first last time and did mention that I was at the budget committee as well as everybody else did. And I just want to put it out there, I was at the budget committee also. So 100 years from now, when somebody looks back, you know, how come he didn't go? I was actually there.
We know you're a slacker.
I just forgot to list it. That's all.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Back to my request for a motion for the approval of the consent agenda. Oh, we already got that. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous consent. Thank you very much. And congratulations, Philip, on your appointment. We're looking forward to having you on the Plan Commission.
Would he like to have a few words, Mr. Mayor?
Would you like to say a few words and introduce yourself, Philip?
I would love to, yes. Thank you so much for that nomination, and thank you so much for accepting it. When I first came to the Dalles about 3 years ago, I immediately, and one of the reasons that I ended up moving here was a fascination with the built environment of the Dalles. I remember riding my bike through downtown the first time and just being in awe of all these beautiful old historic buildings, and just the vibe I got from the city was something that was really fascinating to me. And since then, it's been a great pleasure for me to get engaged on lots of different fronts with the community. I've done a lot of volunteer work, just like all of you have, with the Main Street organization, with the city's Arts and Design Committee, with the Wall Dogs Commission. I'm on the board of the Art Center. So to be able to contribute in this way to the Planning Commission is just a great pleasure and honor for me. It really is. And I want to thank so much for that. Looking forward to working together.
Thank you, Philip. Any other questions of Philip? Okay, great. We'll move on to public hearings. The first is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding proposed uses of state shared revenues. This is the time scheduled for a public hearing to receive testimony concerning the possible uses of state revenue sharing funds for the 2020-21 fiscal year for the city of the Dalles. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 health crisis, the city's public hearing procedures for tonight's legislative hearing have been amended. On April 15, 2020, the governor issued Executive Order number 2016, titled Keep Government Working. Pursuant to the governor's order, public bodies must hold public hearings through an electronic means and provide a method by which the public can listen to or virtually attend the meeting at the time it occurs. Consistent with the governor's order, the city has implemented the following procedures for tonight's public hearing. This meeting is accessible to the public via Zoom, and access instructions have been provided to the public. Secondly, the procedures for providing live testimony at tonight's hearing are as follows. The participants in tonight's hearing are currently muted and will be unmuted when called upon. If you have logged into this meeting from your computer and you would like to testify, please raise your hand using the icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I will call on you either by your name or whatever designation appears on your Zoom screen. The city clerk will be assisting me throughout this process. If you are calling in from your home or cell phone, please wait until we have called on everyone that is logged in from their computers. Those who have joined using their phones will be asked if they wish to speak next. We ask everyone to be respectful, limit background noise, and not talk over each other. All speakers are requested to be specific in their presentations and to focus their remarks upon the relevant issues raised by the proposed uses of state revenue sharing funds. I should add at this point too that we're having a public hearing after this that will deal with the entire budget. This only deals with the state revenue sharing funds. So with that, I'm opening the hearing, and I would like to ask for a staff report. Our
Good
finance director.
and members of council, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please introduce yourself.
You have before you the agenda staff report. for the public hearing of the proposed uses of state revenue sharing funds for the fiscal year of 2020-21 and the consideration of resolution number 20-009, declaring the city's election to receive state revenue sharing. The city of the Dalles has traditionally used the state revenue sharing funds to support activities in the general fund. The budget committee held a public hearing on May the 4th to consider the possible uses of the funds, and then voted to recommend to the council that they continue to use those funds to support the general fund for the fiscal year 2021. The budget for 2021 is approved by the budget committee and already includes the anticipated state revenue sharing funds as the general fund revenue. Does anybody have any questions regarding my staff report?
Introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, Angie, would you please introduce yourself for the record?
I'm sorry.
Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Oh, I'm Angie Wilson and I'm the finance director for the city.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Angie regarding state revenue sharing?
Nope, it's all very clear.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to either testify or ask a question? Please raise your hand. I do not see anybody. Okay, I'm hereby not seeing any public testimony. I'm going to close the hearing. And I'll now ask the city council to deliberate on this issue. Is there any discussion regarding the resolution? Anybody?
No. This is a routine thing that we do each year.
Every year.
Every year.
And the money is, for the most part, put to the general fund, and it's always been appropriately handled, in my opinion.
Yes. And it's something that's requested, that is mandated by every city in Oregon.
Right.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I move to adopt resolution number 20-009, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues for fiscal year 2020-2021.
I'll second.
This is moved by Council Runyon and seconded by Council McLaughlin to approve the resolution. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item B is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021. This is the time scheduled for a public hearing to receive testimony concerning the proposed adoption of the budget for the 2020-21 fiscal year for the city of the Dalles. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 health crisis, the city's public hearing procedures for tonight's legislative hearing have been amended. On April 15, 2020, the governor issued executive order number 2016 titled Keep Government Working. Pursuant to the governor's orders, public bodies must hold public hearings through an electronic means and provide a method by which the public can listen to or virtually attend the meeting at the time it occurs. Consistent with the governor's order, the city has implemented the following procedures for tonight's public hearing. This meeting is accessible to the public via Zoom, and access instructions have been provided to the public. The procedures for providing live testimony at tonight's hearing are as follows. The participants in tonight's hearing are currently muted and will be unmuted when called upon. If you have logged into this meeting from your computer and you would like to testify, please raise your hand using the icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I will call on you either by your name or whatever designation appears on your Zoom screen. The city clerk will be assisting me throughout this process. If you are calling in from your home phone or cell phone, please wait until we have called on everyone that has logged in from their computers. Those who have joined using their phones will be asked if they wish to speak next. We ask everyone to be respectful, limit background noise, and not talk over each other. All speakers are requested to be specific in their presentations and to focus their remarks upon the relevant issues raised by the proposed budget. I'm now opening the hearing, and I would like to ask for a staff report.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. Angie Wilson, the finance director. I'm regarding the agenda staff report for public hearing item number 9B. It's a public hearing to receive testimony regarding the approved 2021 fiscal budget, changes proposed by staff, and resolution number 20-010, adopting the fiscal year 2021 budget for the city of the Dalles. The city budget committee reviewed the proposed budget on May the 4th, and they approved the budget with some changes. The city council will hold the required public hearing and approve the budget this evening, and will consider the proposed resolutions adopting the budget on the same agenda. As we came into the budget meeting, we had several changes that we requested due to the COVID-19, basically reducing a lot of items in each department within the general fund. And we also changed a couple items on the street fund and on the water capital reserve fund. Those items are down below, and I didn't know if anybody would like to go through those, or is everybody comfortable and has read those and feel good with the changes that were approved at the budget meeting.
Councilors, how do you feel? Does anybody want to go through those in detail?
Not those particular ones. I have some other questions.
We do have some other questions, but as far as that goes, Ms. Wilson I don't see any need to go through those individually.
So if you guys don't have any questions regarding my agenda staff report, I guess we would move to public questions.
Before we get to that, I do think there might be some questions from the council regarding the budget, and then we'll move to the public. Does any councilor have a question regarding the budget? Councilor Runyon?
Yeah, just a couple. Item 6 under general fund, which is adding the new line item calling it economic recovery with 510,000 in it for community emergency services. And have we worked out, what constitutes community emergency services? Do we have a list of criteria yet? I know you had talked about that, Julie, but I haven't seen anything in that regard. Does that still be in progress, or?
Thank you, Councilor. I reported in my email to you last week that we have almost completed the grant application that will get us matching funds from Business Oregon. We hope that process opens up about 1 week from now, and then we will apply for matching funds. So I can certainly send the city council the criteria. It's based on Business Oregon's plan for economic recovery. So we can be very successful in getting that grant, the matching funds. And then other things that would be considered economic recovery are unidentified, with the exception of if the city council concurs with our outdoor seating plan for the retail and restaurant businesses, there could be some funds used for that as well. And then if we don't expend all the funds through the grant program and those kind of items, the money will remain in that line item, and then maybe throughout the year, something else could be identified. And if not, it would just stay there and we wouldn't spend it all.
Okay. And that's all I was looking for, just a verbalization of what's ahead to the public. I have a few more. On number 7, we're reducing city council travel, food and lodging for DC trip and Sister City. And I heard we've done away with the Sister City trip altogether. I'm in favor, and something to think about, unless really warranted, eliminating the DC trip this year as well would be my thought. It's something to discuss as you go down the line. The other question I had has to do with number 29. It's just a clarification, which was reduced vehicles from 83,900 to 38,100. Eliminating 1 police vehicle due to not hiring a new officer. Was that an officer in the current fiscal year, or the one that we've decided not to hire in the next fiscal year?
It was the original position that was going to be the new hire for this new fiscal year of 2021. And when we came to you guys with changes, we actually took that position out of the police department, but also we took out the vehicle that would be needed for that added position.
Okay. And the only other comment I have, and that's plenty probably, is that when it comes to training for our directors and whatnot, I know you're going to look at revenues as they come in and maybe do some backfilling. Maybe you could talk about that, but I really believe in a lot of the training that goes on, because especially in the financial area, things change so quick that we have a lot of cuts in that area for all the departments, but I would really like to see some of that filled back in as we're able to do it, at least to be considered.
Yeah, I completely understand. I was actually thinking that there would be a lot more webinars also that we can reach out to and be doing more of the webinars this year and kind of move that way also. But if the trainings do come back and our revenue comes in and our beginning fund balance is higher, you know, those are things that we could, you know, eventually do a supplemental budget, bring those items back in, and if that's needed.
Computer is great, but face-to-face contact in training situations is always a better value. Thank you.
Councilor McLaughlin, do you have a question?
This is for Julie on item 6 on the economic recovery. What is the plan, or is it still being developed, to communicate with those businesses that are in need? How are we getting the word out?
Thank you, Counselor. Within that grant application, which I don't think I have right in front of me, we are using McKed City and the next door, and we're having all of the documents that we're producing for news releases and putting out the information will be in English and Spanish. And the Small Business Development Center is helping us to develop a list of minority business owners, women in business, and things like that, so that we target everyone to get everyone. If we had business licenses, it would have been easy to to do, but we aren't there yet.
Well, that's something proposed for the future we'd like to look at.
Yeah.
And is the chamber also a partner in this?
Yes, the chamber is at the table. They're Lisa Farquharson is part of our committee.
Excellent, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions by the council for the staff?
Well, a quick one, fireworks murals, a reduction from 40 to 20,000. Is that from fireworks or murals or both? Has that affected, how much for the fireworks are we funding for this year?
When the budget committee approved this document, the $20,000 was going to go all to fireworks. I do understand that they've done some substantial corporate fundraising this year, so I have not been back in contact with them yet to see if they're going to need that for the fireworks, and if not, then they can use it for the murals maintenance.
Excellent, all right, thank you.
Anybody else on the city council have any questions or comments?
Oh, one more quick one. It says reduced cruise ship. What exactly is reduced cruise ship? Is that personnel or?
We have a contract with Main Street to manage the cruise ship operations, and reduced that because we don't have any cruise ships. So I don't think we will probably see any till at the very earliest July, and it could be a little bit later than that even. So they're not doing that work right now. So that's why we reduced that contract down.
I understand, thank you.
Anybody else on the council? With that, I'd like to entertain anyone from the public for any public testimony regarding the 2020-21 budget. If so, please raise your hand and be recognized. Anybody? Mr. Nichols.
Yes, sir. I do have my hand raised. A quick question. I noticed there were some severe budget cuts, more than $900,000 in reductions in part of this, but there's also a 2.5% increase to exempt employees. And I'm wondering how you justify those two opposite kind of things.
Well, just from my standpoint, we approved a couple of labor contracts that called for a 2.5% increase for union employees as a result of collective bargaining contracts. So in my mind, it'd be fair and equitable to award those to exempt employees who aren't part of a collective bargaining unit, but I'll let the staff, our city manager, answer that question to the extent I have not. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I would just echo your comments exactly. We try to be fair across the board. The cost of living is the same for everyone, not just half of our staff. And so in order for equity, we always try to match whatever the unions have negotiated.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question. Anybody else? I do not see anyone else that would like to comment or ask a question from the public. Last call for the city council. Anybody before we move on? I'm hereby closing the public hearing. I will now entertain a motion to approve the resolution effectively adopting the 2020-21 City of the Dalles budget.
It looks like there's two motions here.
Yes, there are. You want to do them? Okay.
I will move to approve the proposed changes to the budget approved by the Budget Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
It's been moved by Councilor Miller, seconded by Councilor McLaughlin to approve these changes to the budget of the amendments. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, I'll move to adopt resolution number 20-010, adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget for the City of the Dalles, making appropriations, authorizing expenditures, levying taxes, and authorizing the city manager to take such action as necessary to carry out the adopted budget.
I hear a second.
I can second that one as well.
It's been moved by Councilor Miller, seconded by Councilor McLaughlin to approve the 2020-21 budget. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone, for especially the city manager and the finance director and all the department directors for doing a great job under some very trying circumstances. Thank you very much. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 10A, approval of the city's general liability coverage proposal. I see Mr. Daniel Hunter in attendance. I trust that's why he's here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. That is why I'm here, among other reasons. But you all received a staff report from me as well as a proposal from CIS for our general liability coverage a few weeks ago, and should have also received on the 5th a revised proposal that brought the cost for that general liability coverage down. The original proposal, as stated in my staff report, was above our budgeted amount for liability and for real and mobile property. And the revised proposal is just under our budgeted amount. So with the revised proposal, we are within budget. And I believe Mike from Oregon Trail is on the meeting if you have any questions for them.
Would you or will Mike like to introduce him properly, please, for the record?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, Mike Lupke, Oregon Trail Insurance, and Colleen Clark. She's also with Oregon Trail Insurance, agent of record. Just to kind of echo what was said there, CIS did propose a couple of increases that were well above acceptable. The property rate increases were increased 14%. The auto physical damage coverage was also increased 14%. Like I said, a normal would maybe be 2 or 3%. So at 14%, that's a bit higher and not sustainable, especially for years to come. We did, Colleen worked with CIS underwriter, and we did come up with a plan to where we we're able to lower the premium increases to where the city was in budget. So we are pleased with that. With that said, and putting that plan together to keep the premium down, for the 2021 proposed year, we're still highly recommending CIS, and we'd definitely go forward with them for another year.
Thank you. Anything else from the staff?
No, not unless you have questions for me.
Any questions for Daniel or Mike? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the coverage proposal for motor and trail.
I'll move to authorize the city manager to renew the city's general liability coverage with CIS through Oregon Trail Insurance for fiscal year 2021.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Council Runyon, seconded by Council Miller to approve the liability coverage proposal. Is there any more discussion or questions?
Just appreciate your work. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
Is that the revised one or the original that was sent that's being approved?
Revised.
Yeah, revised. Who asked that question?
I don't know, it must have been Isaiah.
It was Colleen.
It's Colleen.
Oh, Colleen.
Oh, okay. Hi, Colleen.
The revised one that was sent does not have the correct figures for the property and the auto physical damage. Only for the liability and the auto liability. So I'll get them to revise that and send it over.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the proposal, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Next on the agenda is the aforementioned consideration of the exempt employee cost of living adjustment of 2.5%. Julie, are you giving the staff report?
Mr. Hunter is giving the staff report.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes, sir. So, Honorable Mayor, members of council, you should have received my staff report for exempt employee cost of living adjustment. Every year I look at what was previously the CPI for Portland Salem. Now they don't do that anymore. As I've stated in the past, I look at Western Regional and I look at a February to February annual CPI. And the reason I picked February is that's about the latest I can get for relevant data and still make it in time for budget and any labor negotiations that we've got going on at the time. The February over February CPI was 3.1% for Western Regional. Both the police department and SEIU employees, which are both of our unions, received a 2.5% cost of living adjustment, and we are requesting council approve a 2.5% COLA for exempt employees, and that amount was used in the budget, so all personnel costs are accounted for in the budget.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Mr. Hunter? I'm looking for a motion to approve the cost of living adjustment.
Move to approve a 2.5% cost of living adjustment for all exempt employees effective July 1st, 2020.
Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
It's been moved by Councilor Miller, seconded by Councilor McLaughlin to approve the 2.5% COLA increase for exempt employees. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action item C is a resolution authorizing Oregon Parks and Recreation Department grant application for the Federal Street Public Plaza. I see a Steve on this. What's the matter?
I don't see that in my packet. Am I missing it somewhere or part of
Something
the
else?
backside of something.
Here, why don't you pass this?
What are you talking about? The community development?
It's, no, the resolution for the grant application for Federal Street.
It's the very last page of your packet.
Very last page.
Why don't you just keep that, Rod?
It's page 35 of 38.
I didn't print, I printed it all.
Okay, I see a Steve on the screen. I trust that's our Director of Community Development, Steve Harris.
Yes, it is, Mayor.
All right. Proceed,
Yes,
please.
Yes, Mayor, this is Steve Harris, Community Development Director. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. We have a resolution which would authorize the submission of a grant application to the Oregon State Parks Department. And this would allow us to continue with the application process for this proposed Federal Street Plaza. The resolution does not commit the city to the project, but allows us to continue with the application process. We are requesting a $75,000 grant for this particular item. And staff was informed just recently by the State Parks Department that in light of the state revenue issues, that the Parks Department will continue the technical review of the applications, but will defer their ultimate decisions until the state's revenue picture becomes more clear. So again, they're going to continue with the technical review of the applications, but hold off on making any final decisions at this time. So again, the resolution does not commit the city to the project, but it allows us to continue with the application process.
So it's like a placeholder.
At this time, yes, sir.
I understand. Good. Agree.
Any other questions for the staff?
No.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution for the grant application. Councilor McLaughlin?
I'll move to adopt resolution number 20-013, a resolution authorizing the application of a local government grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department for the Department of Federal Street Public Plaza and delegating the Community Development Director to sign the application.
A second.
It's been moved by Councilor McLaughlin, seconded by Councilor Runyon to approve the resolution authorizing the grant application. Is there any more discussion or questions?
Nope.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Is there any more discussion or any items to come before the council? Councilor Runyon?
I just noticed that Chair Heggie from Wasco County is showing on our board. Wondered if you had something to add to the meeting tonight from the county?
Mr. Hagee, do you have anything to add?
No, I was just checking in and see if you had any questions for me. Sorry.
Anybody have any questions for Councilor or Commissioner Hagee?
No.
What's new with the county?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess the one thing I would say is every Wednesday we've been having a commission meeting, and so on the off meetings they're pretty much focused on COVID basically the status of COVID in Wasco County. So we have a meeting on Wednesday which would address that. So it'll be a good time, folks that kind of have concerns about adding cases, what's going on with that. We'll learn a lot on Wednesday.
Thank you. We appreciate your service.
You bet. Thank you to all you as well.
Before we leave, I have a message here from Julie Kruger about the Dog River. Huge news. This is a major milestone for the city. The filing period will go for 45 days, and we are in the final stages of having our permit in hand. Congratulations to all of those of you involved in this project. It's huge.
Huge.
Congratulations go to Dave, because he's been working on this project for at least 15 years that I know.
I agree with
Good job, Dave.
that. Good on Dave.
And as he pointed out, he is, I think he's aged more than 15 years during that 15-year period, but we love you anyway. Okay, any other business to come before the city council? With that, I will, hearing nothing, adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Terrific.